Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. And if you are new, thanks so much for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. Today, which is Tuesday when I'm filming this, this morning, less than 12 hours ago, the shortlist for the Giller Prize was announced and I was waiting in great anticipation. So as many of you already know, I like to highlight Canadian authors and Canadian books, and the Giller Prize is the biggest literary award given to a Canadian author for fiction. And I talked more about this prize when I tried to predict the long list, so I will leave a link to that video if you want to learn more, and I'll also leave links to the Giller Prize website. I had hoped to do a prediction video, but it's been a very busy few weeks, in a good way, and I didn't have time to film. So today I will tell you what my predictions were. Some I did get right. I was disappointed by one, and I was surprised by one again. I only had the opportunity to read 2 of the books on the long list, and I am still waiting for a couple others to arrive. So a lot of my thoughts are based on what I've been kind of hearing out there and what I've been reading and reviews and the ones that I'm just hopeful for. So 3 of the books that got shortlisted I had on my own prediction list, so that's not too bad. I'm going to share those first. So Lesser Known Monsters of the 21st Century by Kim Fu. This is a collection of 12 short stories. I had hoped this would make the long list, and I had hoped that it would make the short list. So I am really, really excited because I want to read this author, and I've been hearing good things, so very happy to see it make it through. The second book I had predicted correctly was We Measure the Earth with Our Bodies. This is by Tsering, Yangzom, Lama. Another book that I really want to read. This is about a Tibetan family who have been exiled, and it kind of follows their journey and how they try to make a life in Toronto. The last book I predicted correctly, and I am so excited for this, The Sleeping Car Porter by Suzette, Mayr. I am so curious about this story, and I want to get to know Baxter, the main character of this book, who is a Black queer man in 1929 working on a train that gets stranded. And I just have a feeling that this is going to be so good. I hope I'm right. So I read 2 books from the long list. One of them made the short list, and one of them didn't. I read Mouth to Mouth by Antoine Wilson. This story was very interesting. I gave it 4 stars. It begins with the narrator who is in a lounge at JFK Airport, and he hears a familiar name being called out and realizes that he knows the man from his past. And they reconnect, and the man begins to tell him about his life. He had saved a man from drowning many years before, and he kind of shares how that has affected his life in many ways. So I will talk about this more when I do my September wrap-up in a few days. So I enjoyed this book, and it was my wild card, but it didn't make the list. The other book I read from the long list was Stray Dogs, which is a collection of short stories by Rawi, Hage. And these stories, which were about people in Lebanon and mostly Canada, these were okay. They didn't grab me, and even now, like after a couple of weeks after reading them, none of them have really stuck with me. So I'd have to go back, I think, to kind of be reminded about them. So I did not put this on my predictions list because I was, I guess, hoping that there were other books that would be 5-star reads for me. So I would, however, like to read other books by this author. I'm not really sure how I haven't had Rawi Hage on my radar before, so I am happy about that. Just a little disappointed that this made it to the shortlist when I do think that there are others that might be better. We'll see. The last book that made it to the shortlist blindsided me, not once, but twice. So if you watched my reaction to the long list this year, then you might remember that there was one book and I said that this book wasn't even on my radar because it wasn't on the list of over 200 plus books that were eligible. So it was a bit of a shocker to see If an Egyptian Cannot Speak English by Noor Naga on the long list. So I was a bit surprised to see it make the shortlist too. I've read Noor Naga in the past and she has a very different style. So my hope is that this will really shine in this novel and capture my bookworm heart. So this means that 2 books I had predicted didn't make the shortlist, and I am a bit disappointed about that. But I know that they can't, all make the shortlist. So the first is Avenue of Champions by Conor Kerr. I will definitely still be picking this one up. I think that this story that takes place in Edmonton, which is about a young Métis man named Daniel, and I think that this has something to add to Canadian literature. So even though it didn't make the short list, it is still high on my TBR. And the final book on my predictions list was A Minor Chorus by Billy Ray Belcourt. And I am actually really shocked that this didn't make it. It hurts my heart just a little. I'm waiting for this book to arrive. It's one that I pre-ordered early on because I will buy anything Billy Ray writes, but also because I was so sure that it would be shortlisted. So obviously I was wrong. But again, this is high on my TBR. So I want to congratulate all of the authors and the publishers who made the shortlist. And I also want to thank the 5 jury members for their very hard work in narrowing down the 14 longlisted books to these 5. There's a bit of Giller reading in my future, and I have a few others on the back burner when I can get to them. The winner will be announced on November the 7th, and my hope is to have read the entire shortlist to predict a winner before the announcement. And then, of course, I'm also judging the Shadow Giller with Lindy and Penny, who I will leave their links and different things below. And then I also have a couple of Giller Extras in the works. So one will be in a few weeks. I am going to attend the Between the Pages event here in Calgary, actually not too far from my house. And that will include the 5 shortlisted authors. So I will let you know how that goes. And I also have a surprise for all of you after the winner is announced. So stay tuned for that if you are interested in Canadian literature, and especially if you are interested in the Giller Prize. Please let me know your thoughts about the shortlist. Did you have any predictions that went through? Have you read any of the shortlisted books yet? Or are you excited to read any of them? I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.